also Dr. Schlustein, Schlo.
Schlustein, yes.
Now he
I know that
delivered.
name.
He delivered me.
He delivered you? He was your
Yeah,
family
yeah.
doctor?
Yeah, and he married one. I think Nicholas Schaeffer. I think his first wife died, and he remarried a second wife after his wife died, and they had a daughter, and old Dr. Schlustein married one of Nicholas Schaeffer's daughters. So they always looked on Nicholas Schaeffer as that's grandpa.
Oh, I
and
see.
and that beautiful portrait that we have down at Schaeffer of Nicholas Schaeffer, when we would go over to Dr. Schlustein's in their living room, they had that big portrait sitting up there, and they'd always say, "Oh, that's Grandpa," and so that was their grandpa as well as our grandpa, because they were married to one of Nicholas Schaeffer's daughters, just like Marie was one of Nicholas Schaeffer's granddaughters.
Right.
And then after the war and all, Tom Shields went around and saw different family members and bought some of their stock. It wasn't going anyplace because our soap business was not very much, and candles were being replaced by electric lights, and our grease business was very small. And it wasn't really until your father and Tom and Marty Schwab and Mike Ratursky that they started rebuilding Schaeffer, and they started really almost from scratch. At the end of the war, Schaeffer was just a shell. I remember Mike Ratursky said when he started there in 1940, just about a year before the war, he said the total sales for Schaeffer for the whole year was 25,000, and so it was really they were just keeping.
Was it always in that location from the time?
No, it's had 4 locations. It started it started out right in the very center of where the arch is.
Oh.
That was 2nd Street, and I pasted off about a couple of years ago. I had the map and all, and I followed 2nd Street where it ended, and if it continued, it would have been right in the center of where the arch was, and I pasted off of what the address was. It was 625 something. I've got it written down someplace. 2nd Street, and it would have been just about in the center of where the arch, and so we tell people built the arch in honor of Nicholas Schaeffer. But then in 1849, there was a big fire on the waterfront, and one of these, by that time the steamboats were all coming along, so they had about 30 of them tied up on the wharf right in front of where the arch is now. And somebody was smoking, and one of the mattresses caught fire, and then all of the steamboats went up in blaze, and then all of downtown St. Louis went up in blaze, and Nicholas Schaeffer's office and everything burnt down, and all that was saved was a hammer that was all scorched, and we have it in our little exhibit. Schaeffer,
What was that year, John?
the hammer of 1849.
The fire?
The famous fire of 1849.
So it was 1849 that
Yeah.
fire.
1849 was the
Did
fire.
that take down the city or just the waterfront?
It took down, well, that was the city.
That was,
that was,
1849, it's,
In other words,
it was just a little river town back then.
yeah, right. It was really just a river town. No, there wasn't any. 18th Street would have been way out in the west end. 18th Street would have been. And so it took down the whole heart of St. Louis. All the warehouses, all the businesses, and everything else. Old Judge Coffee was down there. They burnt down and had to rebuild. And then he had at 20th and Lucas Street, he had about 4 square blocks where they rendered the animals.
Oh.
See, they got the tallow for the candles
Yeah.
and the soap. And we also made Black Beauty cup grease. Originally, we made it out of animal fats before oil was discovered. And then we made, when we made the candles and all, we made red engine oil out of animal fats for the steamboats later. So we were in the lubricant business, you might say, 20 years before oil was discovered in 1859. And so they had this big four square blocks out there where they rendered these animals and all. And then they built another facility right in front of where we are today. And that was a soap and candle plant. They hauled the wagons would haul the tallow down to that place. But then that burnt down in 1879, and then they rebuilt right next to it in 1880, and that's where our
That's where you
plant
are.
was.
Yeah.
And so that's our that's our new plant.
That's your new plan.
And I've got our history of it in that brochure. It's right in my
Nice.
briefcase. I'll give
Very
that to
good,
you.
thank you. That's
Tell her
awesome.
about the records that Gwynne had from the picture of Nicholas Schaeffer to the salesman's call book, which we haven't found yet, but and some of the other.
Oh, well,
Stuff.
you mean like the guy that said because of the flood and the hanging?
Yeah,
Yeah, we had
The hanging?
we had an old salesman's journal. They called it a journal. Salesmen used to keep a journal of where they are and what they're doing. Today we call that a call report.
Right.
And this old journal, I think it was in the town of Wichita, which is now the capital of Kansas, I think. But this was back in the 1850s or something like that. And it says, can't make calls today, the town is shut down, can't get out of town because of the flood, closed the bridge going out of town, and the town is shut down due to a hanging.
and how did the picture of Nicholas get recovered? It was rolled up in something in the attic, wasn't it?
When they sold the stock from the heirs, I think Dr. Schlesstein had already died, and they didn't have any use for the stock. There would never been a dividend or anything else, and so Tom bought the stock, and they said, well, and he said, how about that picture? Do you need that picture? And he said, no, you can have the picture because this is now the.
So Schlesstein had the original
Schlesstein had the
picture.
picture. And so we just Tom took the picture and put it in the lobby at Schaeffer.
There you go.
And who else has a famous picture like that painted by the same?
Oh, well,
Painter.
there was the same artist that painted Adolphus Bush. And for a while it used to hang in the art museum. And then later on they transported it over to the executive offices of
Bush.
Anheuser-Busch, and it was in this panel room where August the 3rd had his mahogany paneling. But then when the people from Belgium, the Brazilians,
Yeah.
the people that bought Anheuser-Busch, they tore all that out, and I don't know what they did with the picture. They probably threw it out or something.
That's
Or
sad
they,
that that
some of the
happened, yeah.
Bush people maybe have. But anyway, that was a famous artist at the time. That picture was probably painted about 1870, he died in 1880.